On September 15th, 2023, I was out on the streets of Detroit looking for a young woman from Peoria, Illinois. My mother had called and asked, could I help find her friend's sister? There was no search party, no volunteers, just me. Knocking on doors, passing out flyers, and talking to strangers. Later, I arrived back home, and I was on a coaching call with a client when my daughter called. I didn't answer, of course. I was working. But when I got off the call with the client, I noticed several missed calls, and I returned my daughter's call. That's when my world stopped. My 26-year-old son, Jesse, was dead. Yes, while I was out on the streets looking for someone else's child, my own son was lifeless in an apartment. I ran out of the house screaming. My tree-lined street heard every echo. Just like that, in a moment, my life changed. You've had a moment like that too. Not this story, but a moment of loss when your life was divided into before and after. So this is more than my before and after. This is about a wiring that's on the inside of each and every one of us, and a conversation that most of us have never been taught to have. Have you ever felt exhausted to the point you couldn't sleep? Disconnected from the people that you love? Maybe looked at yourself and wondered, what's happening to me? Some call that burnout, stress, overwhelm. But what if they are something else? Most people only associate grief when it comes to death. Truth is, grief begins anytime there's a loss, a friendship, a career, a dream. Even community trauma can cause grief. For more than 2 decades, I walked alongside individuals in some of their hardest moments as a minister, as a consultant, and as a coach. I've even had my own fair share of losses. Death, betrayal, divorce, bankruptcy, even the small daily losses that come with becoming someone new. That is where we need to make sure that we're considering our personalities. Ironically, I became the case study for my own work after I lost Jesse. People called me strong. I spoke powerfully at his funeral. Weeks after his death, I kept all of my speaking engagements. 6 months in, I wrote and published a book for grieving parents. I was moving. I was connecting. On the outside, that looked impressive. But on the inside, something different was happening. About a year in, I hit a wall. My personality shifted. The part of me that processes through connection, it went totally quiet. I stopped being Bridget. But I wasn't failing. I was grieving. Grief cannot be outrun. We can't ignore it because guess what? It waits and it shows up somewhere else, like our leadership, our friendships, our relationships, inside of our health, or even in our decision making. Grief, that's what I call grief having post-crisis lag. Now, post-crisis lag is when we try to outrun the grief, but our bodies and our sense of identity, it starts cracking from within. And I notice there's a pattern there. Now, this is not just personal, because the Grief Recovery Institute said grief costs companies billions annually because of lost productivity. So I started noticing patterns in my story and in the lives of other people that I worked alongside. And I continued to see 4 distinct personalities emerging. The strider, the soul sharer, the anchor, and the insight seeker. Now, the strider, they move. They're productive. In fact, people praise them for being resilient. But sometimes they're just one step ahead of the pain. My youngest daughter, she's a strider. The soul sharer, they process through people. They need the freedom to be able to communicate. You see, because they heal by being heard. I noticed I was a soul sharer. So my desire for connection was not a weakness. In fact, it was absolutely my grief telling me what it needed. The anchor, they're instinctively there for everyone. They're supportive. They're the faithful friend. They're the dependable leader. They hold other people's grief, and sometimes theirs get ignored. My husband, he's an amazing anchor. The insight seeker, they seek. So they research and they analyze and they ask questions because they need to make meaning out of what happened. My 12-year-old grandson, he is an insight seeker. Now, there's nothing wrong with each of these. None is better than the other. They are just different. And understanding that gives you clues to how you process loss. So this is more than personal, because we work alongside, we love, we lead grieving people every day. Every day. But some of those people have never been taught that grief goes beyond death. So, what we might call disengagement may be grief. What you might call burnout, it may be grief. What we call weakness may be grief. You see, when we misunderstand grief, we misunderstand each other. It's common for us to talk about productivity and performance in the workplace, but it's still uncommon for us to talk about grief. In fact, Oxford University researcher Sally Maitlis says grief is one of the number 1 taboos to talk about still in the workplace. Now, what makes that is that silence is so heavy. The week that I buried my son Jesse, the young lady I was looking for, she was found. Knowing what I know now, I would still go out on the streets and look for her. Yes, even though I knew what was going to happen or what I would reveal when I got home, I would still go. That's called being human. But here's my epiphany. You can't keep showing up for others when you avoid the truth about what you're carrying. Grief has to have a conversation. So, the next time you think about you feeling different, feeling burnt out, feeling unlike yourself, I want you to ask yourself a question. Am I grieving or am I failing? If the answer is grief, I want you to not outrun it. I want you to name it. I want you to honor it. And I want you to allow your grief personality to show you the healing that it's seeking. You're not failing. You just grieved. Grief has a personality. Thank you.